Welcome back everybody. This episode is about the humble three-way fridge. The angst of many campers as they're trying to get set up for their weekend away. So I'm going to run through some tips and tricks to help you out and make sure that trip away is nice and cool. Come along and we'll show you how. Now the main difference between three-way fridges and the newer compressor fridges that you see in most modern caravans these days is that they're an absorption type fridge, meaning they run okay on mains power. They're not very good on 12 volt power, but they are extremely efficient on gas. A lot of people get frustrated with these and are starting to swap them out for the newer compressor fridges, which are essentially like your modern two-way camping fridges, and they're fairly efficient on both 12 volt and obviously mains power as well. However, there's still nothing wrong with the old three-way fridge as long as it's running correctly. Now this is a Thetford three-way fridge, which is standard fitment to this generation Jayco and plenty of other caravans and camper trailers. You also have Dometic and a few other brands, but from an operational point of view, they're fairly straightforward. So a typical three-way fridge runs on either mains power, 12 volt or gas. From a control panel point of view, you typically have a dial, and that allows you to select what energy use you're going to use, whether it be gas, power, or 12 volt in this particular fridge. You then have another dial, which is the temperature setting for the fridge. So that allows you to adjust the temperature up and down like your fridge at home. And then you'll have a section which is devoted to your gas operation. Stepping into our Caravan we just happen to have over here, it runs a slightly older Dometic brand fridge. These are pretty common in caravans from the mid-90s up to around the mid-2000s, and while they have a slightly different button arrangement, it's all generally the same. So over on this side you have your dial where you can select mains power, your gas or your battery. You've got your purge button here that you push in, and then your igniter button, and then your temperature control on the side. You notice this little black switch here. I'll show you what this is for later on. So let's go through the various ways you can run these fridges and some of the tips and tricks for setup that we've learnt along the way. Now we'll start with the easy one first, and that's mains power. Before you go out for your camping trip, it's a great idea to turn these on 1 or 2 days before you go on your trip to pre-cool the inside of the fridge. Now to do that on mains power, it's a simple case of turning the knob around to what's usually a power cord icon on the control knob. Now these absorption fridges take quite a long time to cool down due to the way that they work. And the reason that you turn this on 1 or 2 days before is to make sure it's up to operating temperature before you disconnect it and connect it up to your vehicle. Now Jayco camper trailers do come with a warning that you shouldn't run these fridges with the roof collapsed and them packed down. I know that with the newer models, where you don't have the vent in the top of the bench like what we've got here, is probably not such an issue. However, the warning label is still on there, and erring on the side of caution, which I normally do because the last thing you want is to burn the canvas or melt the vinyl or set your caravan on fire the night before you go away, is we do wind the roof up, we run the fridge, we pack the van, and then the morning we're about to hook up, we wind it all down, connect it up, and we're off on our merry way. Which takes us on to the 12 volt setup. Now a lot of people have the misconception that these fridges run off the battery in their van. That is generally not the case. What you typically find is that the 12 volt supply for these fridges runs either from your 12-pin plug that plugs into your vehicle or a separate Anderson plug. And it just depends on how it's been set up or who's modified it over the years of their ownership. So while logic suggests that you would run this fridge off the battery stored under here, that's not the case. You'll find that these three-way fridges, when running in a 12 volt operation, will drain the house battery in your caravan extremely fast, probably over the space of a few hours. So let's go outside and I'll show you what we do, particularly on short trips. Then we'll check out 2 typical 12 volt towing setups before we come back inside, and I'll show you how easy it is to get these fridges running on gas. Now we're generally doing fairly short trips. They're 2 to 3 hours from home, so keeping the fridge cool while we're traveling isn't a major concern. But what we generally do is we pre-cool the fridge using mains power. We then fill it full of all our alcohol, bits and pieces. You can even put frozen water bottles. You can freeze ice cream containers or little plastic containers and put them in the fridge as well. And it gets packed away with the rest of our gear. We then have our trusty 55 litre Evercool camping fridge here that we put all our groceries into, and it goes into the back of the Pajero and is easily accessible while you're traveling along. It also means if you pop into a supermarket or something like that, you can load this up and keep going on your merry way. When you get to the campsite, we do swap our bits and pieces around, or if we're doing a quick trip, we'll just leave our groceries in here and just use the fridge inside as a drinks fridge. However, if you do need to power your fridge while you're driving, it's a good idea to move up to the drawbar and we'll have a look about some of the options there and how they're typically set up. Now generally, Caravans fitted with a 12-pin plug, including Jayco's, will have their fridge drawer from pin number 9 and the ground through pin number 10. And they're the more heavy-duty pins that run through to your fridge in the van. Now the general consensus with running your power through these pins is it's generally not of a gauge that's sufficient enough to take the draw or the load that the fridge requires. Jumping over to our Coromel Caravan here, it runs an Anderson plug, and this has a heavy-duty gauge wire that runs either to the batteries in your van or to the fridge, or both, depending on how it's been set up. Jumping back to the Swan again, no matter which way you go, it's very important that if you are powering your fridge from your tow vehicle that you fit auto safety cutoff switch, so when your vehicle is turned off, your fridge doesn't keep drawing power from your cranking battery. There's nothing worse than jumping in your car to continue on with your journey and you've got a flat battery. So that's a very important thing to fit. If you've got a dual battery system, the isolator generally has that protection in place, but it's something you need to make sure you've got under control before you do a trip away, so you don't have any dramas from that side of things as well. And now for the fun part. If you're camping off grid, you're going to want to run your fridge on gas, and that's where these two buttons and the gauge in between become very important, and typically the part where a lot of people become frustrated. And I think mostly the issues are caused from two main things. The first is you need to make sure that your van is completely level and nicely settled before you go to try to start the fridge. Now, if you haven't already, get yourself a little spirit level, and then the best way to level the fridge is to put it on the cabinet above your fridge, and you want to level it both front to rear as well as side to side. The second big issue is that you need to purge the gas system once you turn the bottle on and make sure the isolators under the van are also switched on. So we'll go and do that now, and then we'll come back inside and show you the process we go through to purge the system and get the fridge running. The first thing you need to do is locate your gas bottle and make sure the gas is turned on. Jumping under the van, you will see a number of isolators under the floor. You want to make sure the one that goes to your fridge is turned on. Now, I also typically turn on the isolator to the stove as well, and I'll show you why now. Now, what we do to purge the system out is we turn on one of the burners and we run it for a while. And what that does is it percolates all the air out of the system and helps purge it, which is getting the gas drawn through all the lines and up to the fridge. Now, in a way, you also need to purge the gas through to the burners themselves. However, at least you can see what's going on. The big drama with the fridge is you can't see if the pilot light's ignited or not, and you can't really listen out for it as well. So this gives you a good smell and visual measure to make sure you're starting to draw the gas through the van and it's making its way over to the fridge. And now that we have one of the burners working, we'll let that run for a good minute or so, which will help draw any air back out of the system and make it a lot easier to start the fridge. Now that we've purged some of the air out of the system, it's a case of trying to get the fridge to run. Now, you have to be patient here because you just got to circulate the air back out of the system, get the gas flowing through, and then it will ignite. The first important thing is to switch your fridge back over to gas. And then on our particular fridge, we've got this button here that you depress and hold in, and I'll hold it in for a good 30 seconds, maybe a minute sometimes to get that gas through. And then we've got our igniter here that you press Now it's important to watch this gauge because when it has successfully ignited, the little red bar will move over into the green zone. And we got confused with this as well because this was our first camper trailer with a 3-way fridge. And you can't really tell if it's on or off. You can imagine, you can see this bar move. You're really not quite sure, but it's a clear, distinct movement from the white into the green zone that shows that the fridge is up and running, and it will stay like that until you turn it back off generally, or you run out of gas. So you hold this in to let the gas flow through, and then you click the igniter. And here you can see the gauge moving, and that shows that the system is on. And once it gets over into the green, I release my finger and it's up and running. And it really is as simple as that. You just have to be patient. You have to percolate the air out of the system, hold your finger in, and just keep clicking this until you start seeing that needle move. Once it's up in the green zone, you're all good. I tend to turn the fridge down a little bit because it will run a lot colder on gas than it does on mains power or 12 volts. And just monitor how it's traveling. If it's starting to freeze up in the freezer compartment, turn it down a little bit more. The last thing you want to do is wake up in the morning and all your milk's frozen. And then when you're ready to head home, all you do is simply switch this off, go down and shut off your isolation valves, and then make sure the gas is also turned off at the bottle. And now that your fridge is successfully running on gas, if you're camping over summer, there's one little modification you might want to do. Now, if you have an older van, you'll notice that there's a vent in the bench above your fridge. These days, you're not supposed to have them. So if you sell it, this technically should be closed up and that would come up in your gas inspection. You'll also notice on the side of your van, these 2 vents. Now these are ventilation vents for the fridge. They let the air draw in through the bottom and then it exhausts out back through the top. And the one big problem, given that we don't have the vent in the bench tops anymore, is that during summer, an extreme amount of heat gets stuck in behind the fridge here, and when it's running on gas, makes it run very, very inefficiently. And sometimes you do have problems with the fridge failing to run, slowing down, running hot, and not keeping things cool. So if we run over to the other van, it's already got a modification that I need to do on our Swan, and I'll show you what that is. Now, one of the most popular modifications for any caravan that runs a 3-way fridge is to fit a cooling fan mod onto the back of them. Now, this is a fairly simple one that just uses a few PC fans, and they are manually switched on from the fridge inside. You would have seen the little black switch there. So this is about as simple as it gets. It just means if it's a really hot day, you can manually turn it on. These fans will help draw the air out from the cavity in behind the fridge and help keep things nice and cool. What's out there these days are a number of kits that have a thermo switch on them. So they actually monitor the temperature and automatically switch the fans on if it's getting too hot in there. And really, that would be the best thing to fit rather than the manual kit that's on here. Mind you, if you want to keep things nice and simple, this is as easy as it gets. So if you haven't done that already, put it on your list. It's on mine. We'll get onto it hopefully in the next month or so. Well, I hope you enjoyed that. The 3-way fridge really is a simple bit of gear. It's very reliable. They're extremely efficient on gas. One bottle of gas will last you for ages if you're camping out in the bush. And you don't necessarily have to pull this out and put a compressor fridge in because you can't get it running. It's just going through the process, making sure the van's level, purging the gas out of the system the best you can, and then being patient and making sure this little gauge moves to show you it's on. So if you enjoyed this, please like our video, put a few comments down below. Let us know if we're doing a good job and you're enjoying these videos, and most importantly, subscribe to our channel. I've got a few more videos in the works coming along. I just did a review on our Wooshgar portable camp stove. So if anyone's interested in that, that should be up in the next week or so. And I've still got a whole list of other projects that I need to get underway. And Adam from Caravan Mods, I'm slowly putting together my list because one of the main jobs we need to get done before summer comes around and we get out of lockdown is to put a 12-volt pump into this van, along with the fridge fan mod that's on the other Caravan that I showed you earlier. So thanks for watching, and as I always say, get out there, stay safe and have fun.